Turn now to the horrific accident reportedly involving NFL legend John Elway. The Hall of Famer reportedly driving a golf cart when his longtime friend and agent fell off the cart, hit his head, and died. What police are saying about this tonight, and here's Kana Whitworth.
Tonight, authorities investigating a tragic accident reportedly involving Hall of Fame quarterback John Elway that left his longtime friend and agent dead. According to TMZ, Elway was allegedly driving a golf cart after a party Saturday in the gated community of La Quinta, California, when suddenly Jeff Sperbeck fell off the back of the cart, hit his head, and suffered a traumatic brain injury. Witnesses describing a chaotic scene.
It was so scary. I mean, it was nothing like we've ever seen. You just don't think you're going to ever witness anything like that. But his wife was like hysterical.
She says Elway was calling for help.
He was on the phone trying to call 911, call anyone.
The 62-year-old Sperbeck rushed to the hospital where he died this morning. Sperbeck was his agent for a time, and the two eventually became business partners. In a statement tonight, Elway saying in part, "There are no words to truly express the profound sadness I feel with the sudden loss of someone who has meant so much to me." And David, according to TMZ, there is no indication that anyone was driving negligently at the time. David.
Kana Whitworth reporting tonight. Kana, thank you.
We've got ones that can see. Welcome, everybody, to today's show. Some of you may have heard of John Elway in the past. Some of you may have no idea who John Elway is. But this is a perfect example, a perfect story to talk about Freemasons, how they're above the law, how these people get away with the things that they do. And of course, the coincidences that surround this story and that movie that I just talked about that's coming out soon called Him. So let's start with what you just heard. John Elway, a very famous NFL quarterback, considered one of the best of all time. John Elway's agent and him were in a golf cart and they had an accident. Somehow he fell out of the golf cart, hit his head on the asphalt, and died. There's a picture of the two, and they look a little bit closer than you could imagine. I'm sure that they were, as most Masons are, right? The same people that are pushing that agenda down everybody's throat. But the first thing you would think of when you heard that story is they were leaving a party, right? They loved to drink together and schmooze together, right? So you probably would assume that there was alcohol involved, right? And did you know that you could actually get a DUI for operating a golf cart while under the influence of alcohol or drugs? Now, was that ever mentioned at all? Was there a breathalyzer given to John Elway? Well, of course not. He gets preferential treatment. It's John Elway. John Elway is a brother, right? Here it is right on the Grand Lodge of Ohio's website. Brother John Elway. And Brother John Elway is above the law. Now, if you or me were driving in a golf cart somewhere late at night after a party, especially with some of the stories we've heard come out over the last year or two, where there have been stories of drunk driving incidences with golf carts and cars hitting people on golf carts and all sorts of stuff. Wouldn't you assume if me or you were driving a golf cart late in the evening, right? Sun's probably still out, and the person with us in the golf cart fell out and hit their head on the asphalt. Don't you think that sounds a little bit suspicious? Don't you think there could potentially be foul play? Well, they immediately tell you there's no foul play. Don't you think maybe drugs or alcohol could be involved? Because if it was one of us, they probably would say, what happened? Oh, he fell out. Did you push him out? No, I didn't push him out. You start thinking maybe he pushed him out. How do you fall out of a golf cart? I mean, they don't go that fast. I mean, I get it. You probably could if you're driving recklessly, but if you're driving recklessly in a golf cart, you're probably drunk, right? Because the only times I see somebody drive crazy in a golf cart on a golf course is a couple of people who have been drinking on the golf cart course, and maybe they'll go swerve around or something like that. But it's kind of an impossibility in a sense that it's a random accident. And if it is a random accident, well, we would all be tested for alcohol or drugs. But John Elway, whoa, it's John Elway. He's a brother, right? In fact, you could even see the Scottish Rite tweet out in January around the time of the Super Bowl. Did you guess which two-time Super Bowl champion, NFL MVP, and Hall of Famer is also a Freemason? Well, the answer is John Elway. John Elway is, right? And he's probably one of the most famous NFL players who is a Freemason. Now, we know that Shaquille O'Neal's come out as a Freemason, the NBA player. See, the athletes don't really mind sharing this information with the public. They believe they're untouchable. The politicians want this hidden because the politicians can be found guilty of treason. So you don't hear the politicians come out and flash their Masonic rings and tell you what secret societies they're in. Yes, we know about Skull and Bones. And we know, hey, these guys are in Skull and Bones, President Bush, John Kerry, right? But they get a free pass because everybody laughs it off and dismisses it and says, oh, it's just like a fraternity, right? But if every guy in Congress came out and said, hey, I'm a Freemason, and then we said, well, can we investigate that? Oh, they take a loyal oath to one another, right? Aren't they taking an oath when they're sworn in office to us? But what about the oath they take to the people who are in the club, right? Oh, that doesn't count because that's technically treason, right? So they don't want you to know what politicians are in it. But the athletes, they don't mind as much. They're, in fact, the ones who flash it the most. Even celebrities, we've seen Ashton Kutcher wear the Freemasonic hat, right? They don't seem as scared because, well, they realize the majority of people are so dumb. And again, John Elway's been involved in other scandals. He was accused of racial discrimination. A lawsuit was filed against John Elway. John Elway never got canceled. John Elway isn't getting investigated for this accident on a golf cart. No. And why is that? Because John is in the Brotherhood. In fact, they even have a nice little video for John where you want to see just how cringe this is. This is from the Masons Live Better propaganda that's out there, where they try to get you to join, of course, Freemasonry, which you have to actually get recommended to join. But they want people out there to think that they're a special group of people who are more special than you are. In fact, it's more of a cringe Boy Scout club of guys who really should be questioned.
Masons Among Us, brought to you by Michigan Masons.
This Pro Football Hall of Fame member played his entire 16-year career with the Denver Broncos. At the time of his retirement in 1999, he had won 2 Super Bowls and recorded the most victories by a starting quarterback in NFL history. His name, John Elway, a proud member of the Masonic fraternity.
Brotherhood, fellowship, community. Be a Mason. Go to wearethemasons.org to find out more.
Yeah, that wasn't K. Excuse me. It's a frog in my throat, right? So John Elway is a Freemason. It's kind of funny. When I looked up after hearing this story, I typed John Elway sacrifice in the search on YouTube. And I was like, I don't know what might come up. But of course, what came up? NFL legend John Elway's longtime agent killed in a golf cart accident from ABC News. So did they tag it with that? Probably. They probably put some metadata in the back end for everybody out there because they probably want to make sure that if there's any videos out there that say John Elway sacrifice, because people are suspicious when they find out he's a Freemason, that this shows up first. In fact, it's also the truth in plain sight. And of course, the concept of sacrifice in Freemasonry, of course, this is according to Freemasons. Let me read it to you. The concept of sacrifice in Freemasonry, while present in the rituals, is primarily symbolic rather than literal. So sacrifice is a major part of Freemasonry. They openly admit it, but they're trying to convince you that it's symbolic, not literal. So when we do rituals where we show people in coffins and caskets, because that's what they do fake mock death rituals, etc. You know, they do these, take these vows and they have to do certain things and they get blackmail. You can't even imagine some of the stuff they do, but they don't want you to know that, right? So it's primarily symbolic, of course, just like witches don't really worship and do witchcraft, right? They just love the grass and the trees. Just like Satanists claim that they don't worship Lucifer, right? Satanists don't worship the devil. They don't care about the devil. It's symbolic. It's not literal. This is the common theme we see with these liars. So the rituals involve oaths and symbolic actions, often portraying the idea of self-sacrifice or the dedication of oneself to greater principles. This dedication could be to duty, or taking a duty, to the fraternity, or to the pursuit of knowledge and moral betterment. It's important to note that Freemasonry emphasizes personal and communal responsibility, not physical or literal sacrifice. Well, thank you, AI. They're letting you know that it's not physical. We promise it's literal sacrifice. And again, just like the Satanists, they walk around with the pentagram. They have rituals where they're all dressed in their underwear, drinking chalices of what looks like blood. But they don't worship Satan. They're just trolling you, right? Just like the Freemasons. It's not physical. We promise. We promise, we promise. We have to emphasize it's not literal sacrifice. Then at the same time, you tell me about the world of coincidences that we live in. The horror movie Him. I covered it multiple times already. There's a new movie coming out. And this isn't like some D-level horror film because it's by Jordan Peele. I believe that's his name. And this guy makes pretty big movies, pretty big blockbusters. They make a lot of money. A lot of people see him and they have a lot of predictive programming and other things in it. So this isn't like, hey, some guy made it. It's available at your 7-Eleven in the $5 DVD cart. Okay, this is very popular, coming out soon. So the horror movie Him centers on a young, promising quarterback who trains with his hero, a legendary 8-time championship quarterback. Oh, John Elway's a legendary championship quarterback. The movie follows the quarterback as he is drawn into a dark and twisted world by his mentor, exploring how far he's willing to go for fame and success. Marlon Wayans plays the legendary quarterback, while Tyreek Withers plays the young quarterback. And, well, let me just show you the trailer where you can see what they're talking about in regards to the dark and twisted world that they have to go through for fame and success. Yeah, take a look.
I said, do you want this? If you want to transcend the game, you have to dig deep. No days off. No sleep. We grind. That's how great people think. So you're gonna have to ask yourself, what am I willing to sacrifice? This is everything. Do you want this? What are you willing to sacrifice? Everything! And show me. What am I willing to sacrifice? You're willing to sacrifice!
So, I mean, again, it's not literal sacrifice. I mean, they're literally showing you the dark, twisted world of Freemasonry and secret societies, which involve worshiping Lucifer, right? But it's not literal sacrifice. It's just an expression, right? That's why we always hear celebrities talk about sacrifice. So I'm sure it's a coincidence. And if you're out there and you're talking about this as if it's more than a coincidence, you're a conspiracy theorist, right? Because John Elway is a famous quarterback. People like John Elway. They have memories of John Elway when they were young. And of course, we know how they've used, retro and looking back at the past and nostalgia as a big, big thing in this mind control experiment that's going on. That's why there's this big movement of nostalgia and retro. People are, and part of psychology, people, when they regress as humans, they start going back to things they enjoyed as a child. 100 years ago, 200 years ago, Wild West days, you think, Wild Bill Hickok or whoever, you think these guys, you think that Doc Holliday at 30, 40 years old, he's like, you know what, I want to go back to spinning, I want to go back to, well, I don't know what games they were playing there. I want to go back to just sitting and putting a pacifier in my mouth. That sounds like a good idea. They wouldn't even think of that. But in today's world, because of the constant ambush on our minds, people are regressing as humans. In psychology, it's called basic regression. You literally can look it up in psychology books. When humans start reverting to childhood behaviors, it's because they feel overwhelmed. They feel the walls closing in. They can't handle a lot of the things that are happening around them, and they regress. And that's why you see this. And this isn't a knock on people who are into things from their past, because we are under constant attack. But that's why you're seeing this constant regression. So a lot of the times with people like John Elway, a lot of people now who are in their 40s and 50s, they remember football in the 90s and it wasn't political and memories of it. And they love guys like this. That's why they protect guys like this. They protect their past. That's like the line from The Matrix, right? They're so dependent on the system that they'll fight to actually protect it. So John Elway is looked at as this massive hero in sports before sports became political, where you have all these celebrity sports athletes telling you to be vote Democrat, vote this way, do that. And people just look at John Elway like, oh, let's give John Elway a pass, right? Well, John Elway's in the Brotherhood, right? And if me or you were driving a golf cart, that's just the basic common sense logic that you need to use. And I wouldn't be surprised. Look, nobody watches my content anymore. But back in the day when I was doing a lot of this stuff, it would get hundreds of thousands of views before it got completely, foot stomped, curb stomped. They would hear the narratives I was talking about, and they would put stuff out there. It didn't have to be national news, but they put stuff out there that would say, oh, they did check him they did give him a blood alcohol test, right? Just to make sure that no conspiracies actually grow. And of course that wouldn't be true, because John wouldn't take one. Even if he did, they'd throw it out, because we know the Freemasons are the police force. The Fraternal Order of Police are Freemasons. So they took one. John would get, what do you think? They wouldn't turn a blind eye? That's like saying if you saw your father drive drunk, what would you call the police on him? If he crashed into a tree and report your dad? Well, maybe in today's world, some people would, but I'm sure you'd say, let's get dad home. We don't want anyone to take his blood, check his blood alcohol level, right? So they might hear this, they might put propaganda out there, but it's incredible that this immediately happens. And they're like, there's no foul play considered. It doesn't seem like anything suspicious. Seems like an accident, right? Oh, they were leaving a party. John Elway is known as a complete partier. There's stories out there about John Elway and cocaine, being into all sorts of drugs and alcohol, okay? So it's likely he probably was, because I don't see how a 60-year-old man Could be driving recklessly in a golf cart to make his friend fall out of the golf cart and hit their head. And then we all know about sacrifice when it comes to Freemasonry, right? But it'll get swept under the rug. But of course, it's just a coincidence, folks. It's a coincidence. I'm not saying one way or the other. I'm just telling you, at the same time, there's a movie out there about NFL players and quarterbacks specifically who have to make the sacrifice if they want to be famous and legendary. Kind of like John Elway, right? Can't make this stuff up. Coincidence theories, of course. I thank everybody for being here. I hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families as always.